So I'm planning on renovating the basement. So I figured I'd prepare by removing some of the old carpet that was down here. I picked that up, and underneath that was some even worse shaped carpet, and I started to sweep up the pieces, all of that, and underneath that I found some linoleum. And well, I had it tested, and it ended up being 45% chrysolite asbestos, and I need to get a permit in order to make my renovations, so I needed to make an enclosure as well, and maybe this video can help the next person if they get into this kind of situation. Now, I followed the OHS regulations, which is the Occupational Health and Safety regulations, and as a homeowner you don't need to do a lot of it that's required, but I'll explain a few things as we go. If you hire somebody, you might be, like just if you hire a kid down the street or whatever to help you along, you might have to follow these guidelines to exact, and it's really tricky to do in many cases. Now, you have to, if you're going to hire somebody, follow procedure that way. You have to well, do the enclosure like I did, but you also have to, you can online submit an NOP, which is a notice of project. As a homeowner, you don't need to because I'm doing the work myself. But okay, well, here we go. So I made you use 6mm poly in order to cover the room that's at risk. Now, if you can see, I've used this red tuck tape. It's not necessary, only duct tape is fine, but I found because I used the vapor barrier type of poly that the duct tape didn't stick very well, so I used the more expensive tuck tape, and I'm actually kind of glad I did, because then you can speed through it a lot faster. As you can see, you need signs in order to show that there's a danger there. In this case, because it's the friable type of asbestos that breaks up when you touch it underneath, I needed to put a 3-stage in. This is actually moderate, because what they call a moderate risk, just because I'm not going to remove the asbestos from the floor. I'm just going to clean it up and cover it, now, which has been done, and this is why the video is going, so I can walk in and show you. So 3-stage entry. Okay, I've put a fan on to show you how this negative pressure works on an enclosure. This is the first room, the clean room, for a 3-stage entry into your workroom. And the idea is that you install a fan with a HEPA filter, and you can see this one is being vented through the aluminum exhaust out the window, and it puts negative pressure on the room, which draws air through this door. I've got it, the bottom of it weighted to keep it shut in most cases, and you can see there's a bit of a draw through the bottom. Okay, this is the first room. It's the clean room, and this is where you get out of your coat, shirt, pants, and put on a Tyvek hooded coveralls. You need to be tight at the wrist and tight at the ankles. You need latex gloves. And for a high risk situation, if I were removing the asbestos, I would need a full face respirator. But in this case, the regulations provide some stipulations for lower risk. You can wear a 3/4 sized respirator. You move from that location into the shower room, and in this case I just installed one of these camping solar pads. They stipulate that it must be hot water shower, so I put very hot water in this, and after my work it was warm and it was perfectly fine. So put water in here, and then it drains through here, and there's a little shower head there that has a valve you can shut off. For the bottom of the shower, I used a pan that goes underneath a hot water tank, and from there it drains into another pan that I can dump into the toilet when I'm done. The third room is the dirty room. Okay, let's go in. I didn't mention before, but the shower needs soap under regulations, and I installed, installed a curtain here just to keep the water from going into the third room. Each of these doors swings the same way in toward the room, in toward the workroom, to keep the air flowing in. So this is the third door, and this is my dirty room, and I've got some old coveralls or rags or whatever I needed, and I preferred to wear boots, so I used rubber boots for this job. And this is the fourth door here. Okay, so I'll give you an idea. You need to cover the ceilings and walls. Okay, it's kind of a no-brainer. This is an easy technique to figure out. One nice thing you can do is, if you're running a team, you can actually cut a square in the window. I think it needs to be 24 inches by 24 inches, and that way you have a safety inspector on your team. He can look in without having to put on the gear. Everything needs to be sealed from air gaps, and I'm going to give you a look at this HEPA filter here. Oh, I was actually fortunate I had a sink that I could play with as well. So this is a HEPA filter, and it's sealed through the tape around the edge, and I monitored the amount of how dirty the filter was getting with just an air meter. I can't actually measure airflow with this little tool, but I can set the pill right at the center mark and then just monitor whether or not it goes up and down, because the filter is getting dirty. And it didn't move during my whole work, so I know that the filter is still working efficiently. This system is not going to be adequate if you're doing commercial work. The commercial negative air units have 4-stage filters in them. They need to be certified by a technician, authorized technician yearly, and every time you change the filters, you're supposed to do a smoke test on them. You need somebody that's responsible for keeping records on these things, like you do the safety fellow. He has to keep records on everything. And it's expensive to rent, and you need to be qualified to use them. But for me, all I needed to do was to satisfy the company that would come in and do my survey for asbestos. And they were happy with me installing this with a fresh filter and covering up, cleaning and covering up the existing asbestos. Now, the standard procedure for this is to use wet mop or wet rags and then finish up with HEPA filter vacuum. And I also couldn't do a smoke test on my vacuum, and I put two fresh filters in there. I had a bag and a filter in my vacuum, and that was adequate for my survey company to. Okay, this is the bag you need when you want to contain your asbestos. It has to have a label on it that says contains asbestos. This is a 6 ml bag. And you need to double bag your asbestos. So in the workroom, your first bag is loaded up, and you twist the top like this and duct tape around it, fold it over, and continue duct taping until you get a nice seal like this. And then this bag can be wiped down and brought into the dirty room here. That's that third room, and you can double bag it in here, and then it can be brought out through the doors. If it wasn't obvious, you need to shower before you leave, and then you can get changed and out. So you deposit the old work clothes in here and rags and whatever, and then shower and change, and you're done. Just a couple final points here. This asbestos can't be thrown in the regular trash. You'll have to check with your municipality where to dispose of it. Your respirator should have proper asbestos filters with a NIOSH 100 rating on them. Commercially, an air test has to be done daily. This is another piece of equipment that you can probably rent, but in my case I talked with the company doing the asbestos survey and it was fine because I was just covering everything up. What else? You should have your respirator tested for proper fit. There's many videos online that shows you how to do this, and you can buy these little smoke tubes from eBay. And that's about all I can think. Any comments, add it, that'd be great. Thank you.